First time this season, the Rangers are above NHL 500. Took them some time, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but they're heading in the right direction. As this division is shaping out, it's very clear that the Sabres and the Devils are the two worst teams in this division. The Rangers definitely proved that out in the last 3 games. So the Rangers beat the Sabres on Tuesday, and that was a game in which I don't think the Rangers played all that well. I think Shesterkin was a big reason for that victory. And we're lucky. They won it 3-2, and really at that point they hadn't been playing great hockey. But a win's a win, and they were able to hold on. And that in itself is improvement. And that was Filip Chytil's first game back. And so they got that win. So let's talk about the Devils games. These games would be played at the Prudential Center. The Rangers had lost both games at home to the Devils, which may prove costly down the road, but still a ways to go anyway. But those were wins that they should have had. The first game against the Devils, they played very well. They fell behind. They had almost 50 shots on goal, but Mackenzie Blackwood played very well. Then the second game was one of the worst games of the season for the Rangers, where the Devils just wanted it more, and the Devils would eventually score a few goals in the third period to win that game, and certainly left a bad taste in Ranger fans' mouths. And, I think was kind of at the peak of bad Ranger play. So Rangers basically had a really, really bad first period on Thursday against the Devils. It was horrible. If not for Shesterkin, they would have been down by multiple goals. They were only down 1-0. Jack Hughes had scored. At this point, you're thinking, well, the only reason why the Devils aren't up by more is they just don't have the goal scoring. But what you could count on is a really bad penalty kill for the Devils. And I feel like that's a Lindy Ruff carryover, because with the Rangers, under Jacques Martin, the penalty kill is one of the best in the league. It's really remarkable, the turnaround. But for the Devils, it's the worst in the NHL. So the Rangers would draw a power play. I believe Chytil was the one that drew that penalty to get it going. And Chris Kreider would score. And then he would score again. And then in the third period, he would score again. So Chris Kreider gets a hat trick. His second hat trick in about a week. And hat tricks in back-to-back road games. So he had a hat trick in a loss against the Flyers the week previous, and then he gets against the Devils. That's 13 goals for Kreider now on the season. So he has definitely stepped up in Panarin's absence, and I was critical of Kreider early in the year, and I felt like he was saying the right things in the press conferences, but wasn't actually producing, but now he is in a big way. He's been a very productive player. 13 goals. He's probably in goals per game. He's probably somewhere in the top 5. Somewhere in that. I mean, he's really just been scoring a lot of goals, right in front of the net, deflections. And so good to see on Kreider. And Ryan Strome has been a part of this as well. Ryan Strome made a great pass to Kreider on that first goal to get it going. And he, really has been... without Panarin, a very formidable center, and with Zibanejad playing, and we'll get into him, of course, again, because he's continually playing very badly. But Strome, he has 8 goals and 9 assists on the year, and got to give Strome props. And so Rangers take a 3-1 lead at that point, and keep in mind, Rangers were up 2-1 going into the third. And Shesterkin made tons of amazing saves. He was a huge factor in this game. And the Rangers would make it 4-1. A beautiful pass by Alexis Lafreniere to Pavel Buchnevich to give him a 4-1 lead. And then, unfortunately, on a Ranger power play, the Devils will get a 2-1. And real quick about the power play, that needs to improve a bit. Rangers power play definitely has been underwhelming. That needs to get better. With Panarin out, it actually hasn't been so bad. It has been serviceable, but still needs improvement. So the Devils are on a 2-1, and on an innocent-looking type of play, Shesterkin kind of moves from side to side and just goes down and is writhing in pain. It looked really, really bad. So Shesterkin couldn't put any, it didn't look like he could put any weight in his, right leg. had to be carried off, so Georgiev comes in to replace Shesterkin. And as it would turn out, he is day-to-day with a mild groin strain. So, not out of the woods, but, what looked like could have been like a season ender and just, adding on to another big-time loss for this Ranger team. It looks like he's going to be all right. I would expect him to miss the next few games, but maybe we'll see him in the somewhat near future. So, what could have been, I was ready to get on here, and discuss, what it would mean if he was out, but it sounds like they dodged a bullet. So, Brendan Smith would make it 5-1, and then Lafreniere would make it 6-1. So, it's funny, a very misleading score, but give the Rangers credit. After the penalty drawn by Chytil, the game turned. It really did. And Lafreniere, at that point, would continue a 4-game point streak, and he is getting going. It took some time, but you could see the talent, and it's great to see. Really, I think he's just scratching the surface on what he could become. So the Rangers win that game 6-1. And at that point, improve their record to 9-3. And going into the second game of the back-to-back against the Devils, with that win, they would finally get over that NHL 500 hump. So meaning more overall wins than regulation losses. And they got off to a very good start in this one. And this was a better overall game for the Rangers. So Alex Georgiev is in net. Blackwood in net again for the Devils. And the Rangers would draw a power play, and Adam Fox goes end-to-end for a goal. His great play continues. He has really, I would say, out of everyone, been their best player. I mean, if you were to do like a top 3 Rangers players each game, Fox is going to be on there almost every single time. Really just tremendous, and good to see him score a goal, because it was only his second goal of the year, but it's everything else he does. And just a beautiful goal. And so the Rangers make it 1-0. And they would make it 2-0 on a goal by Ryan Strome. And a great turnover by Kakko, who returns from the COVID list. This is Kakko's first game back. So Di Giuseppe would come out of the lineup, and Kakko in, and gets a nice turnover, gets it over to Kreider, passes to Strome, and a nifty backhand goal for Strome. Again, this line the Strome-Kreider combination works, and Kakko, it looked like he didn't miss a beat today. Played a lot of minutes and was very good, and gets rewarded with that assist. But the Devils would score a couple goals. And the first one, not a great one by Georgiev. It was a point shot by PK Subban, and that would make it 2-1, and then Maltsev would make it 2-2. So very quickly, after good play by the Rangers, it's 2-2. And you're thinking at that point, well, great. Maybe if Shesterkin's in, maybe this doesn't happen, but a quick response. Filip Chytil with a great pass to Kevin Rooney, the former Devil, scoring against his former team to give the Rangers a 3-2 lead at the end of the first. So a wild period. And, big play by Chytil, and it makes it 3-2. Second period, Keandre Miller would win a puck battle in a race behind the net, the Devil net. Feeds it to Buchnevich, who gets it to Hayek, and Libor Hayek scores. His first goal of the season, and his first goal in a couple of years, actually. I actually was in attendance for his first NHL goal, which was also against the Devils. But good to see Hayek get rewarded. He's doing a pretty good job. This was someone who it was thought that maybe he's just not going to be an NHL defenseman, or it just wasn't going to work out, but he's kind of showing a little bit of stability. And I think when Jacob Trouba comes back, which sounds like it's going to be very soon, maybe tomorrow night, maybe Tuesday, but he's making the trip to Pittsburgh. And I think Trouba is probably going to take the place of likely Jack Johnson. I think Hayek scoring a goal certainly doesn't hurt that. So Hayek scores, that would eventually become the game-winning goal. And that would make it 4-2 at the time, and they would take that lead into the third period. And the Rangers would make it 5-2. And a very nice play by Julien Gauthier, who'd have 2 assists. He gets the turnover, gets it over to Filip Chytil, who scores. Chytil is already looking like he's back to the way he was before he got hurt. And that's the great thing. The young kids are really coming through. I think that's the big theme here, is that they're getting so much from, players that are very young. We're talking, 19, 20, 21 years old, 22. Like, and are the key catalysts of this team. And Chytil, who would be the first star of the game, gets that goal to make it 5-2. Devils would score late, Nathan Bastian. And again, not a great goal by Georgiev. And David Quinn said after the game that they're not sure whether it's going to be Georgiev or Kincaid against Pittsburgh. Shesterkin is making the trip, but won't be playing tomorrow. And I wouldn't really suspect that Shesterkin would play on Tuesday either. So I think that, what likely happens, just because they're unsure, tells me that probably Georgiev gets one game against Pittsburgh and Kincaid gets the other. So the Rangers would add an empty net goal, Strome from Fox, to win 6-3. So that's 6 goals in back-to-back games. Again, it's against the Devils, but the Devils, certainly, if nothing else, had been a hardworking team and had been fairly decent defensively. Obviously, major lapses on the penalty kill, but a hardworking team. So Rangers, with a couple of good wins, and like I said, really just getting a lot from young players. And Zibanejad would fall down at the end of the game, and he seemed like he was hurt, but Quinn said that he's going to be fine. Honestly, like I said, it would not be such a bad thing if Zibanejad took a few games off. Just reset, get healthy, get his mind right more than anything. It's incredible that he continues to just look like one of the worst players on the team. I guess the one thing he's doing is he's doing well on the penalty kill. He's really hurting this team, but yet they're still winning games. And I guess there's something to be said for that. But that narrative, is not dying down. I almost feel a little bit bad for Pavel Buchnevich and Alexis Lafreniere, who are playing with him. I think if you're on Strome's line, if you're on Chytil's line, that's going to lead to good things. Now, the fourth line, again, Brett Howden, it's kind of like a Zibanejad situation where his only contributions come on the penalty kill. So, but he seems to be somewhat of a coach's favorite. And so when Panarin, and we don't know when Panarin will be back, but whenever he does, likely what happens is, you feel like Blackwell could be at risk of being scratched. He hasn't played well the last couple games. I like him. I would leave him in the lineup personally. To me, if you're going to stick with Howden, I don't love the way Brendan Lemieux's been playing, so I don't think that he should be someone that's locked into the lineup every night. And then on defense, like we said, Trouba should be back soon. To me, the obvious replacement would be for Jack Johnson. I guess I wouldn't be surprised, if Brendan Smith were to have, some games where he wouldn't play. But to me, Johnson would be the more obvious replacement. And so they're getting more healthy. And, this roster's looking better. And they were able to get above NHL 500. So a lot of work to be done. Again, for me, the playoffs are not something that is super likely. And it is a very strong division. So I think if the Rangers had been in a different one, maybe we're talking about a different situation. But again, a lot of hockey to go. And 2 very big games at Pittsburgh. And the Penguins games were all close. Rangers were leading for most of those games. And the Penguins this year have just had a knack for really coming up clutch. And that's something the Rangers typically haven't done. So I would expect these to be good games. And the question is, can the Rangers kind of learn from some of those mistakes that they made? Pittsburgh, it's a dangerous team. It's a quick strike team. But I think if the Rangers play the way they did against the Devils, after that really rough first period in the first game, I would expect them to come away with at least a win out of these 2. And then, it doesn't get any easier. They have 2 games at Boston. So be very interesting to see, but definitely positive momentum going on with this Ranger team. And we will talk after the games at Pittsburgh.